All right. This is the second documentary I watched that really stood out to me. While I was watching, it really began to see things in this story that I found similar to today's administration. Um, it is a story about Elizabeth Holmes, who you see here on the screen, and her dream to invent and create a brand new way of testing for illness, infection, disease, and more. Her goal was to reduce the amount of blood that they had to take from people. It was a test that was going to be less invasive. You can see the vial of blood that she's holding in between her two fingers, and then next to her, you can see the bigger version up close. This held 1 drop of blood, and it was supposed to fit into this vial that she wanted to put into a machine. And her machine name was Edison, and her company's name was Theranos. Her machine was like a box, okay? So the size of my laptop was the size of this box. Looked like a bread maker. It looks like a bread maker to me in the video. It's one box that would test for tons of different illnesses and diseases and infections and more. The only problem was that she started selling this box. The look of the box, the labeling of her company, the commercials, the campaign, everything before she knew if it was even possible to make. Her grandfather was known by quite a few rich and powerful men. He was a doctor at one point, and she had access to his friends, colleagues, coworkers, some pretty well-off people. We're talking people that made their money off investing in Skype, in Tesla, Apple, Oracle, major money people. And she got their money to make this machine work and test off of 1 drop of blood, save people trips to the lab, save people trips to the doctor, and they'd know what was wrong with them without needing insurance. It was going to be very affordable for most tests, and then they'd have add-ons, a la carte style. You could say, I want to be tested for this, this, and this for free, and then let's throw in this and this. That's basically how it was. So she had access to investors that put their money into this machine. We're talking millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that she received solely based on an idea. These investors did not know that this was impossible. She just did a really good job selling the idea. The size and the amount of blood needed isn't something that accurate, really well done tests can do, needing a lab. But the first thing that I went, oh, that's interesting, is they started talking very negatively about the big lab company Quest and almost campaigned as this company being evil, which makes me think about how right now the administration is calling immigrants evil. Make it a negative. Democrats, evil. This is their sales tactic. So let's focus on the tactic she used, because it really does make me associate that with what she did with our current administration. All right, so hello. I'm gonna play this clip. It kind of just explains what people were thinking, investors and people close to the project. So I'm gonna get this up on the screen and then we'll play.
So the reality is that data just doesn't sit in our mind as much as stories do. It's almost like glue, the glue that takes all of the data. And even more important, stories have emotions that data doesn't. And emotions get people to do all kinds of things, good and bad. And if you think about the people who invested in her with very little amount of data, it's about having an emotional appeal, about having trust and believing the story and being moved by this and being able to tell themselves a story. I wanted to find the people who were just strategically brilliant.
General Mattis, who was former CENTCOM commander, is one of our board members. Dick Kovacevic, who is the former CEO of Wells Fargo, is another. Sam Nunn has done some incredible work on nuclear threats as well as bio threats. Bill Perry, former Secretary of Defense, Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of State, and George Shultz, who is Secretary of State and Labor and Secretary of Treasury.
None of these people were really in a position to know what. Sure. Yeah. No.
Didn't really want scientific input from what I could determine. Engineering a bit more, because she was inventing an engineering device, but not medicine. She aligned herself with very powerful older men who seemed to succumb to a certain charm. And those powerful men could influence people in the government, influence the Department of Defense.
When I asked her, was this all about getting government contracts? She danced around my questions about that.
Everything we're doing.
So at this point in the documentary, she's got the very high up people, some in government, legislative, executive branch, both. Okay. And what they said, I don't know if you caught it, but they basically said that she's got all these people working with this, either giving money or referring her to individuals that can help. But the only problem is they weren't connected to scientists, bioengineers, chemists. They weren't using those. They weren't getting the information. So how do you create a product that works properly and is safe and can be put out on the market and used by Walgreens, used by the government, etc. So she's out there spreading the word, using these powerful people to spread the word. And it reminds me of this current administration. You know, they have all of these fabulous ideas and all of these promises, but we don't really know anything behind the scenes. You know, you watch the news and people say, we're working on it. We're working on it. You know, we need to open the government, which just happened. But we can't do anything about it. And, you know, healthcare, we've been trying to get a better plan than Obamacare, but no one's seen anything. No one knows how it's going to work. They just keep going back to tariffs, tariffs. Tariffs are going to pay for everything. Well, we've learned through the courts that the tariffs are our money. So, a quote in the movie, someone said, no one around her could explain or was qualified. The product was tightly guarded. Everything looked great on paper, but all the results were hidden. She did finally hire a PhD to work on the projects, to try to actually make this a product, a thing. There's no way it was going to be made. So she hired this doctor. I don't have his name, I'm sorry. And he, long story short, took his own life. He really took the failure hard, and it wasn't his failure. She was using this guy to make what she promised a reality, and that reality isn't, not in this time, not in this lifetime. Lots more research, and she didn't have enough of those people. She needed more biochemists. So this doctor basically got to the point where he couldn't lie anymore, and he couldn't fail, and he took his own life. Now, what I want to say here is this is not exactly the same, but in her company, tons of people started leaving. People that knew there was nothing that they could do to make it work. They either were spied on and closely guarded about everything by the company. They weren't allowed to say anything. They were made to sign NDAs, and they were given scripts. Seriously, they were given scripts, so that they didn't say the wrong thing and give away that this bread maker, blood tester box wasn't working. I relate the two because of all the people that are leaving. Smart people. People that have been in this job forever. You got all these brand new people that have never been in this position before, never worked with the person that was previously in that position. They've got no help, so how do they know what they're doing? The day to day. I mean, you can't just walk into a new job and know exactly how it's supposed to function. And we've seen that with, all the mistakes they made at the beginning with their mistake with Signal. They didn't know. I know they didn't know. No one told them because everybody around them is new, or never worked in that sort of situation. So there's mistakes that have been made by this administration. There were major mistakes that this Elizabeth Holmes made in her whole product. But if you can't keep the smart people around, there's a problem. And I agree with that so much, because if a teacher that knows the correct thing to teach, like math or English, whatever, and the school says, nope, you've got to teach this, it's that teacher's not going to stay at that school because they're going to be like, these people are crazy. And that's what happened there, and that's what happened in this administration. People are still leaving. Lawyers, and they're still leaving. Who's left? And then they got rid of the departments for science. Science is important, man. Like, there wasn't enough science in this Theranos Edison box. You really think that there's enough people left in this administration that knows everything, that even is doing everything that they're supposed to? I highly doubt it. They're all new. They're all babies. I could see if this was just a marketing aspect of the government, and they have this face out there, they have all these slogans and everything, but they don't have the product. The product is a better United States. Cheap gas, cheap groceries, being able to afford mortgage, rent, being able to put down money and save enough so you can buy your own house. None of it. We're not able to do any of it.
And what would start off as a very serious brainstorming meeting would turn into a 2 hour conversation about the name of the cloud that's going to process the information. It's like, time out. How big does this box need to be to abide by the laws of thermodynamics and actually function and save people's lives? Maybe that's more important than the name of the cloud that processes the information.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened there. This is another little clip where makes me think of the administration and how they work. Just watch.
Have become under attack, from outside, and it's usually Quest Diagnostics. Their entire
Quest Diagnostics is evil. They're bad. They're attacking us. They're coming after us. Now replace Quest Diagnostics with immigrants.
product strategy is lies, built around getting people sick and then living off of their diseases. And we are trying to change that, right? So it's really important that we all understand that what we are doing here is so disruptive that we will always be attacked.
They're not going to always be attacked. The attack is that will come is should be expected, and they know it. That's why they're being so secretive.
Paranoia seemed to come from the belief that like someone's going to beat us to it or someone's going to steal our ideas and we're not going to get the whole market. There's a healthy degree of paranoia and secrecy, but this was well beyond that. There was security. You couldn't go walk up into her office. That just doesn't happen. She had bulletproof glass on her exterior windows. There were bodyguards waiting outside, a couple guys at the front lobby, and that increased more and more later on.
So you would be identified each time you went into any area.
We would send emails, not CC Sunny or Elizabeth, and we would get a response back from Sunny. And I remember that was a very big turning point for me where I was like, you are being monitored. You are being watched.
That's my cat. But what I was going to say is the paranoia thing reminds me of Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon kicking out the people, not letting them go anywhere. I guess the White House did that too, but that might have been to do with the asbestos, because that happened too. But yeah, I just wanted to play that clip so you could see the paranoia that comes with lying to big people and having a lot of their money.
We weren't supposed to tell our families what we did. We weren't supposed to talk about anything that went on inside of Theranos.
Then after a while, people became paranoid of one another.
We became much more siloed. Walking down the hallway, you'd say hi, and the person would look at the ceiling or the floor or anything to avoid eye contact and not acknowledge you back. And then the next person, and you'd notice there'd be whole groups that just wouldn't. You were invisible to them.
It was very hard to communicate information sometimes because there were so many blockades and silos and this emphasis on secrecy.
Silicon Valley is really good at making a web-based
She got
really
a
great
deal
at
with
making
Walgreens
chat app
without a
emojis on
product.
it.
All these people believed in her, and she was giving all of these promises. What do you think happened?
In 2013, Theranos went live, testing real patients in Arizona as part of a partnership with Walgreens. It was a risky move. The Edison machines had problems, and they weren't approved by regulators for in-store testing. But Theranos was running out of money and needed the Walgreens deal to attract new investors. So Elizabeth sold Walgreens on a stopgap plan to launch the wellness centers without the Edisons.
How do you do that? How do you get people to sign contracts? They haven't even seen the contract. But Trump promised a lot of shit, pardon my language, and has yet to deliver. Like almost a year in, has nothing to say. Serious. Come on.
Trying to make autonomous vehicles or trying to make medical devices. We're trying to do these things that if you don't do it right, quite frankly, people can die. You need to approach it with a different lens.
So this Elizabeth chick, in order to keep towing all these people along with her on this fake thing, she even asked for more money because they were running out and they had no product. Another thing after the Walgreens, they were still taking blood from the vein and not doing the pricks, and people were wondering why, and they blamed it on the type of test that they ordered, and it needed more blood, but it never worked. Instead of them taking the vial blood and sending it to Quest Diagnostics, they were doing it in their own lab, and they didn't have many people in this lab doing the actual tests with the like things that go in the different holes and sterile environment. Um, it was a facade. It was false. All the behind the scenes was the same thing. There was no box, no tester, no nothing.
When I think of Theranos, I really feel like there were two entirely different worlds. There was the carpeted world, and there was the tiled world. In the carpeted world was where Elizabeth was a goddess. Everyone, almost worshipped the ground she walked on. She could do no wrong. She was the next Steve Jobs. Theranos was changing the world. And then you go onto the tile side, and nothing works. We're on a sinking ship. Everything's a lie. Reconciling the differences between those two worlds was really hard for me to do. And I would be so motivated to go back and work, and I felt like I was changing the world again. And I would go back into the tile world, and I would go, hey, what just happened? You want it to be true so badly. I would leave the tile world thinking, oh man, sinking ship. And I would go have one conversation with Elizabeth.
So think about this, okay? You have all these people, and they hear what Donald Trump can do, and they want it to be true. You want it to be real. You want this dream. You think that one person can finally change the world, but that's not how it works. It's not how it works. It takes collaboration. It takes lots of people. You can't make a product just with marketing, just with speeches, just with people with public relations knowledge. That's not how you run a good company. That's not how you run a good government. I mean, this is people's lives. Okay, what is sorry. I'm just gonna play this because there's a little snippet, and he's so young compared to now. What happened? See?
You're charging historically low prices, which is a small fraction of what is charged now, and while maintaining the highest standard.
With all her political connections, she was chummy with the Obama administration. The bet that she made was that if she surrounded herself with powerful people, the regulators wouldn't get confrontational with her.
I'm really sorry for not giving some of you a trigger warning, but come on, get over it, okay? Whole point of this is faking it till you make it doesn't always work. That's actually quoted in this film, but she even tricked the government into believing this stuff. And it never happened. Walgreens had to close a bunch of stores. Their wellness centers got all screwed up. I'm sure you've been to a Walgreens and seen it. There's just a lot of faking and cover up and lying about this product that was supposed to work, and it never did. She got in trouble. She believed in it. She believed she was doing the right thing. She acts like to this day that this was her baby and it was going to work, and they didn't give her enough opportunity to show it, and unfortunately that's not what happened. So I just gonna say it again. I feel like the government is a scam right now. this administration, all these promises. It was to get their foot in the door. It wasn't to help. It's how many people can I appeal to get in the office. So I cannot do the job. I can fire the smart people. I can bring in brand new people that don't know what's going on. And I'm set. I'm set for life because I'm gonna do this for my own good, for my money. I'm taking people's money. Like that. She took people's money. The government's taking our money. And it's not going to us. Not going to us at all.